Okay, we are live on Proline TV, the Our Football Network, and we're talking a little bit of NFL first. We're also going to be talking about college football in about 45 minutes here on Pigskin Mondays. I know you're used to hearing me say Pigskin Fridays for the past several months as we've been getting you ready for the beginning of the season in pro and college football. But now it's Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays, our first Monday edition, and we're still doing previews. We have 31 of 32 NFL previews that we are either finished with, or we have still a few more to go, including our show here today with our special guest, Sara Marshall, who is the editor of musketfire.com, covers the Patriots. And then hopefully we'll round out the 32 with the rest of the week. But anyway, we're going to talk Louisville football a little bit later on with Jody Demling of the CardinalAuthority.com. And Sara, thanks for doing this. As we talk a little bit about the New England Patriots, and it seems to be a team that a lot of the media, Vegas definitely seems to be siding with as maybe a little sleeper team with the new coach, getting a little bit more offensive firepower, big offseason of free agency, and maybe one of the easiest schedules in the NFL.
Yeah, it's a nice change. I don't know if people remember that last year the Patriots weren't favored in a single game. So the fact that we're going into week one even favored by a few points, I'm like, all right, it should be a better season this year. So that is exciting for me.
Yes, I was going over the notes for the first all the week one games. That's one of the things that popped out at me. I was like, they weren't favored in any game last year. So this is Drake May's first time as a favorite in the NFL. I'm sure he'll be favored in many other games, but it is interesting because this is something that I think I obviously we'll find out on Sunday, but there's so much attention on the Patriots, say, compared to the Raiders in a positive way. There's still a lot of confusion about the Raiders, and they hired that old man Pete Carroll kind of deal, and the Raiders are the Raiders, where the Patriots are getting all this media love. And it will be interesting to find out how they deal with it because they're still relatively young and they've not been in this position before.
Yeah, and I'm curious to see if they can live up to the hype and not crush under the pressure, because it's something that we haven't experienced probably since Brady was around, and it's been 5 years since then. And then we're also going into somewhat of a revenge game for Josh McDaniels against the Raiders, so there's going to be even more eyeballs on the game for that reason, and that'll be a fascinating story to watch because I'm a Josh McDaniels believer as a coordinator, not as a head coach. So I'm hoping that he can bring that against his old team and show them like kind of what they're missing out on, Yeah,
that's a good one. Of course, he's an assistant coach, but it still matters. You know how pumped up he's going to want to be to win this football game. And Pete Carroll, also former New England head coach. I'm not sure. I haven't done my research yet to find out. I don't know if you have yet to find out how many times he has faced his old team.
I don't know off the top of my head. Actually, it's interesting.
So that is one I'll do some research on before the game. But I'm sure he's faced him more. I'm sure he doesn't have any bad blood. Not Pete Carroll.
Well, and not this many years later.
Yeah. He was just retired last year, basically. Yeah. So and now
kind
he gets a second chance.
Right? It was kind of forced on him. I feel like
it was
trying to do good by him from Seattle, but I mean, they were like, hey, we want to move on. We want a new young guy, the fresh blood, like trying to follow the Sean McVay path.
Yeah. And he still, he stayed on, but I'm sure that was just to be the nice guy and wait his time, and he got his opportunity. And so we'll see what happens on Sunday. Patriots are a 3-point favorite against the Raiders. Before we get into that game, let's take a look at the Patriots overall. We'll pop up the Our depth chart for New England. Obviously, the 53-man roster that was settled, or as settled as could be, because it's in flux basically since last Tuesday, every single day since it was first announced. You get all sorts of movement on the depth chart. And here's the practice squad for the Patriots as well. Let's start on offense. Couple of key rookies on the offensive line can always get you a little bit nervous. But for the most part, talent-wise, what a big difference for the Patriots on the offensive line this year to last year.
Huge. And I think the biggest concern obviously is depth, which has been a concern for the offensive line for a couple of years at this point. But the fact that they have what appears to be stable pieces at each position is a huge plus. Because last year, I forget how many weeks in a row they started a brand new offensive line group. And so it's nice that they should have a stable group that goes out there every single week, unless, barring an injury. That's going to be huge for Drake May.
What position concerns you the most? What you've heard from the coaching staff on the offensive line? Is it because veteran-wise, Garrett Bradbury never really lived up to his draft status with the Vikings. He was just an okay vet. And again, you got a couple of rookies there. So is there a particular position that you could zero in on, or is it just simple as being the two rookies on the left side?
I think I'm not as concerned about Will Campbell. I think there's definitely, obviously, like you said, he's a rookie, and there were people who are saying he's more of a guard than he is a left tackle. So we'll have to see that, but we're not going to know definitively if that is a legitimate concern until we see him play in a real game. I'm more concerned about left guard and center, just because that has been the two positions that they have had the least solidifying people to be there at this point. We've been seeing Jared Wilson play left guard, and it seemed like he locked that down, but then they also moved him to center. Then we had Ben Brown coming back in at center, with Bradbury being sidelined for a bit. So I'm just a little worried about that. They also got rid of Cole Strange, even though he never lived up to his draft hype either. At least he was somewhat depth, like reliable if they needed him to be. So it's just the center and left guard. I'm just not sure where we're going and how good that's going to be.
Yeah, well, it's understandable. Strange isn't maybe starting caliber, so let's say, but how surprising was it that they just let him go all together?
Okay, it's a conflicting thing, because I think, he was kind of doomed from the start because he was a first-round draft pick. We all remember that infamous video of the Rams laughing at the Patriots taking him in the first round because he was a fourth-round prospect. And he kind of had a roller coaster career during his New England tenure. Like, he had stretches that were great, and it was like, okay, he looks like the part, right? And then an injury sidelined him for almost, 80-90% of last year, and he just never got back to what we wanted from him. So it doesn't surprise me that they probably couldn't shop him. I think that is probably why they were like, all right, we're just going to let him go, because no one's going to trade for him, and if they do, we're probably just going to get a 7th rounder. But I was hoping they were going to keep him at guard. Even when I was going through like mock drafts and whatnot, I wanted to keep him around as depth. So I was a little bit surprised in that regard, because I feel like the depth is an issue, and he at least could have been a solid guy to go to if you needed him.
Yeah, interesting. You do wonder, whether or not there was some sort of a conflict with the new coaching staff in some way. It is kind of just strange. But hey, maybe they just felt Ben Brown and Caden Wallace just fit better.
Yeah.
And that's what happens when you bring in a new staff. Have you seen or heard anything positive about Wallace since he was a 3rd-round draft pick? Again, I know different regime and all that kind of stuff, but because he's the one guy, including Marcus Bryant, he was a 7th-round pick. Those are a couple of young guys in the offensive line. Have you heard any, like, if there's one guy on the offensive line that you think the Patriots feel the most, as far as the depth, that they feel the most comfortable with, that if there's an injury, which player would that be?
It looks like more, I would say, Marcus Bryant. He was kind of a superstar of training camp.
Really?
I know that it's training camp and preseason, but there was a lot of hype coming out of camp about him because they are basically using him as a plug and play guy. They've had him all over the offensive line on both sides. Didn't really hear a lot about Wallace. And I think part of that is because they drafted him as a right tackle, wanted to force him to be left tackle, and he tried, but that just wasn't going to work because that's not what he was playing in college. So I would like to think that we'll see him, maybe if Morgan Moses needs to take a step out, we can see if he can actually compete on the right side. But it looks like Marcus Bryant might be a shocker this year, which I think is beyond shocking because he's a 7th rounder. Sure. No one really talks about 7th rounders, no. But he did a great job.
Okay, well, keep an eye on Marcus Bryant then. As far as the rest of the offense, the skill position, receivers, of course, this is something that the Patriots needed an influx of new personnel, and they went out, they signed Diggs. They also drafted Kyle Williams. Those were the big moves. Chisholm is an interesting story as a CFA, a nice FCS star that was able to, sort of like an old Patriot, Julian Edelman type of player. I'm
Right.
sure they're getting all that kind of comparisons in New England.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and then of course, Booty is it Booty or Boot?
Booty.
Booty.
Yep.
I know that, of course, he was a big time player a few years ago in college, and then I forget what happened. He was going through some personal things, and it just
Yeah.
didn't work out for him. Injuries, but it's nice to see that he's been able to find himself again and give himself an opportunity to be a starter in the NFL.
Yeah, I think last year was kind of an unexpected turnaround for him because he was virtually invisible during his rookie year. He had a couple drops in the week 1 game, and historically Belichick does not do well with that and puts them in the doghouse. And that's kind of what happened with Booty. But he got 589 yards last year. So nothing great, but considering how terrible the offense was collectively last year, it was pretty impressive. And there are some people in the media that think that Booty might be a sleeper and be the guy that has a better season than Stephon Diggs. I'm not saying that I agree. I'm just throwing that out there. It's being said in New England media. And so he might be a guy to watch.
Fantasy sleeper.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, you know what? I hope that Diggs ends up being everything we want him to be and everything they need him to be. But if we could have a sneaky good guy out of Booty, that would be phenomenal.
So how is Diggs looking right now? Anytime you come off a major injury like that, at his age, he's not young anymore. He's not old, but he's at that point where you just got to hope that he can be the guy, like you said, that, the talent's there, no question about it. So how's he looked?
I haven't heard or seen anything to suggest that he's taken a step back. I mean, from the second that he was signed, he was already training. If it wasn't at the facility, he was doing whatever somewhere else with his own trainers. He's looked great. He's looked fast. They expect him to start in week 1, which is pretty incredible considering when he tore his ACL last year. So I think he's going to be good. I mean, fingers crossed that nothing crazy happens and he takes a step back, but I don't see anything suggesting that he's not going to be the wide receiver 1 that they signed him to be.
And if you had to make a prediction on who you think is going to be the most productive wide receiver on the team, who would you pick?
So if we're going off of training camp, I don't know if he'll maybe put up the most stats, but it looks like there's something really good brewing between Drake May and Demario Douglas. Douglas has kind of been an under the radar guy, but I think now that, you could kind of compare him to like an Efton Chisholm, right? And given their size and the way that they play, Josh McDaniels, I think, is like a godsend for Demario Douglas. So I do think that we're going to see the rise of Douglas in this offense. And that's really exciting because he's been very productive despite he's going into his 3rd or 4th year, and he's had a different offensive coordinator every single season. So it's pretty incredible to see how he's able to remain consistent.
Okay. So then you're going to pick Douglas.
I think so. It's so hard because it's like Diggs and Douglas. I really think it's going to be them. Like, I think Booty will be a sneaky one.
Okay.
But I'm more confident with Diggs and Douglas for sure.
Okay. So that would even make Demario Douglas a fantasy sleeper too.
I mean, fantasy is not my forte, so I am not giving advice whatsoever.
Well, it's just about production. That's all.
Yes,
if you think he's going to produce a lot more than anybody expects, that's all.
I think so. Yeah.
Okay. All right. And then as far as those other rookies, so what have you seen from Chisholm? Again, I know it's going to be a big jump from the FCS with the size and all that kind of stuff, but why is he? And again, maybe having, you mentioned McDaniels, maybe having McDaniels, and of course Josh knew how to use these guys throughout his coaching career, and anybody could do it. It's Josh. So what did he find interesting about Chisholm and you, and also with Kyle Williams?
Yeah, I think with Chisholm, it's the familiarity with that type of receiver, the small slot guy. He's not necessarily going to put up the biggest stat line at the end of the day, but he's going to be there when they need him, very similar to a Julian Edelman, a Danny Amendola. So I think he'll be that secret weapon type of guy, maybe even taking some of that pressure off of Diggs, because Diggs is presumably going to be double teamed, or he's going to be the guy that defenses want to cover. Kyle Williams, I'm interested to see what he can do, because he kind of had an up and down summer, like definitely stole the spotlight at the beginning of training camp, but other people, Chisholm, came in and then kind of took that away from him. So I'm interested to see how they're going to utilize him, because you haven't really gotten a good chance to see what he will be doing, in the same way that we got a Demario Douglas because Drake May was favoring him a lot, and Efton Chisholm because he was a highlight in the preseason. Kyle Williams was not that. So I'm interested. I'm hoping he'll be exactly what we hope he is because he is a 3rd round pick. They used a high round pick on him. So hopefully it's not the curse that the Patriots have fallen into.
I don't think there's any team, and you know it, that has had more bad luck with receivers, especially with 1st-round receivers. So at least he's a 3rd rounder.
Yes. So there's definitely no pressure in that regard.
No.
It's not a N'Keal Harry situation, which I'm very thankful for.
Wow. Okay. Of course, Hunter Henry, we would expect that he's going to have another nice year. They developed good chemistry last year. Hooper's a nice number 2. Westover, is that just a depth tight end? Nothing more?
I think he's depth and maybe potentially fullback. Josh McDaniels loves a fullback, and they don't have a designated fullback on the team. It looked like they were going to use the UDFA. Who was it? Not Land Larison. It was the other one. Brock Lampy. I'm not sure how he pronounces his last name.
Lampy. Yeah.
Yeah, but he got injured. But they were trying to utilize him as more of a fullback. So I think that because they kept Westover, they might try to use him in that role if possible.
Okay.
Yeah,
that makes sense. All right, and then you've got the talk of the preseason for the Patriots being Trevon Henderson. And look, I remember last year, and we were talking about him quite a bit leading up into the draft, definitely even leading at the end of last season, and talking about how when you looked at projections in the 1st round, he was never there. And the fact of the matter is, we just believe that there's one reason and one reason only that TreVeyon Henderson wasn't a surefire top 15 draft pick. His health is him being able to, hey, if I'm going to pick a guy in the 1st round, especially in the top 15 in the draft, I want to make sure this guy doesn't have any sort of, injury history like Henderson. Not that he's had major injuries. He's had a couple here and there, but for the most part, it's like he misses time here, he misses time there. Otherwise, the guy can do everything. And and as Patriot fans have seen, the kid is just explosive off the ball. It's just a matter of, can he stand the rigors of an NFL season and be that guy that they can count on? Because when you've got that much talent, you want to just keep feeding him the ball. Oh, yeah. So I can imagine he's definitely going to be given that opportunity. So I guess Patriot fans must be ecstatic about the possibilities.
Oh, yeah. And we know how much Josh McDaniels and the Patriots in general love to use a running back in the passing game. So they're going to utilize him in that way. They'll definitely use him as a blocker because he's known for being a blocker on the offensive line. Yep. And with so many question marks around the offensive line, they'll definitely use him in that way. I'm so excited about him. It's been a while since the Patriots have had an explosive running back. Stevenson is great, but last year was problematic with the fumble issue becoming a thing again, just like in his rookie season. So I'm curious to see how this season progresses, because I would not be surprised if Henderson leapfrogs him on the depth chart, if that still is an issue for Ramondre.
Yeah. And he's also a little bit banged up, right? Is he going to be okay week 1?
Ramondre?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. He he was dealing with some personal stuff earlier in the season, and he's lost quite a bit of weight. So I'm interested to see how that is too, because he had been like a bigger back, and now he's not as big. I think he's a little bit closer to Antonio Gibson now. So yeah, I think he's okay. I think he's planning on they have him starting. But yeah, it'll be a competition, I would assume, between him and Henderson this year.
So what does he right now weigh?
I don't know. I know that he's lost like 20, 30 pounds or so.
Wow.
Yeah.
So what was he before?
I think he was closer to 220, 230.
Okay. So he's actually lower than that now. You're saying he's closer to 210?
I think so. That's what I heard. That's what I had been reading about. Okay. And some people were attributing it either to him trying to lose weight, or unfortunately he lost his father earlier in the year. And so it's not sure if that's attributed to that. Obviously very understandable, but it was a noticeable weight loss at the beginning of training camp. So I don't know if he's tried to put weight back on or not. Hasn't been a topic since then. So.
Okay. All right. Let's go over to the defensive side. And this is really where they made a splash or 2 or 3 in free agency. So has one of those players stepped up among the group of veterans more than the others? Or is it mostly, this is a nice group of players and they're definitely going to add to our team?
I think it's definitely more of the new guys. I think Christian Barmore being back in the lineup is huge because he's been an excellent player since they added him in the draft a few years ago. So the fact that he's able to play again is great. But mostly from everything that has been said, we haven't heard a whole lot about Keon White. He was actually kind of demoted.
Oh.
So that's not great news. Everything else that we've been hearing about is all the new guys. Milton Williams, we've heard from, is it Kalavon? Kalavon Chason.
Yes.
He's been
Kalavon Chason. Yes.
Yeah, he's been great. Harold Landry has been great. Spillane has been great. So it's definitely a focus on the guys that they brought in this year.
Yeah, I remember talking to Hondo Carpenter, who covers the Raiders, and he had talked about how he thought the Raiders just completely dropped the ball on letting Spillane go.
Yeah. That was exciting for the Patriots. You know what I mean? Because a lot of the time when they go out and they spend money, it's on guys that you've maybe never heard of or you don't understand the hype. So the fact that they are able to snag a guy like Spillane or a Milton Williams was pretty exciting because I'm like, they don't do this very often. So it's good that the teams are sad they're gone.
What do you think about the secondary? Carlton Davis. I think the only knock on Davis in his history is just staying healthy.
Right.
He seems to always miss time at some point. So him staying healthy is important. It looks like Christian Gonzalez might be ready for a nice little breakout season. We know that he's got the talent. And then they drafted Craig Woodson, and it looks like Craig Woodson might be getting starter reps. So how is that? And by the way, Duggar. Also fill me in on Duggar, because there's a kid that just seems like every season something is either up, he's down, the scheme fits, it doesn't. It's kind of confusing from an outside perspective exactly how the Patriots and Duggar, or at least how they plan on playing him and what kind of a player he is.
To be fair, someone watching the Patriots and a fan of the Patriots, is still confusing. I have no idea what's going on. They released Jabril Peppers last week, which was surprising. There has been no clear answer about why that was. Some people thought it was a scheme fit, which obviously that was going to happen when you have a new head coach come in. They're going to get rid of some guys that don't fit how they want to play. Apparently, according to Vrabel, that had nothing to do with it. So have no idea. No attitude issues, nothing like that. So we don't know about that. Duggar has had an up and down year. Last year, I don't know if a lot of people know, he was misdiagnosed. His injury was misdiagnosed, played through it all season long, got a proper diagnosis at the end of the year and had surgery. So he's still rehabbing technically, like from an ankle injury.
Okay.
And so I think that definitely contributed to it. He's been a solid player since he came in. He definitely had a great 2023 season, which is what led to him getting a massive contract. Then he has, a down season right after that, which is not a great look. I'm hoping they can figure out how to use him, because the secondary looked like one of the more promising groups for the Patriots defense this year. And so I hope that they can rely on that, especially because Carlton Davis has the question marks with injuries, like you said.
Yes.
Christian Gonzalez suffered an injury at training camp in July and did not practice today and might miss week 1, which is
really significant.
Which that'll call on, a DJ James, for instance, a Marcus Jones, perhaps. Not terrible, but not great.
Yeah, who are those guys? Oh, I know Marcus Jones, but I was another question I was going to ask. I mean, DJ James, Alec Austin, Charles Woods. Who are these guys?
Yeah, so Alex Austin was on the team last year, and he kind of had a breakout year for him. For the limited time that he was on the field, he had some really good moments, and so it was like, okay, he's going to lock this backup role down. So we'll see if he gets the start. They really like DJ James, who they brought in this year. I think he was on the Seahawks last year, maybe even their practice squad. But he had a great camp. So they really do like him, and he had some good moments in camp. I'm still questioning if he's like a starter guy that they can rely on. We'll see. Charles Woods, they just signed him, so I have absolutely nothing about him, honestly. Okay. Signed him last week after roster cuts, but it's going to be interesting. Like you said, Craig Woodson looks like he might get that start at safety. So it's going to be a completely different look, a very young secondary this year besides Davis. So yeah, they're definitely putting like a lot of emphasis on youth with the defense this year. And that's exciting, but nerve-wracking for sure.
Yeah, that's why I think there has to be some perspective when it comes to the enthusiasm from the outside, especially when you're not covering the Patriots on a daily basis. It's like, yes, look, things were really bad the last few years, and things are getting better. but just, things need to be just relaxed a little bit because they're not a finished product by any means as far as the roster. And this is definitely, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but would this be one of the more questionable overall depth? I know they've got some real good, solid players, as we've talked about, but overall depth, that seems to be a big question mark for the Patriots in the secondary.
Yeah, for sure. I think that and the offensive line are the two most questionable groups. It looks like there's a lot of potential with the young secondary, but again, we haven't seen that yet. And it's a little bit more concerning when you have a guy like Christian Gonzalez dealing with an injury that apparently is taking a little bit longer to overcome. So then that is like making it a little bit more scary to think about, especially going against a team like the Raiders. Like, you want to come out victorious to start the year. They have some solid weapons. They just signed Amari Cooper. Jacoby Myers is very familiar with the Patriots, and Josh McDaniels. So it's a lot of pressure to put on young guys in a short amount of time too.
Have you heard anything specifically about the other rookies? Josh Farmer was a 4th rounder, and Eric Gregory and Elijah Ponder made the team. Anything specific?
Not a whole lot about Farmer, which is a little bit disappointing. Eric Gregory, they are ecstatic about him. The Bengals fan base was absolutely miserable that he got picked up on waivers. So that is a solid sign. I guess Vrabel said that they liked him coming into the draft or coming out of the draft. So it's not surprising that they picked him up. Ponder is another guy that kind of had a under the radar, really good training camp. So he's a UDFA, right? He went undrafted.
Yeah.
So, interested to see that for sure, because they loved him. And so if he can be like a solid contributor, that would be awesome, because it's not often that you get UDFAs that can actually be like a solid pillar of your team.
And let's keep in mind, too, looking at special teams, that there are a couple of rookies that made the team. Long snapper rookie, and most important, of course, kick return rookie. Trevion Henderson could be real dangerous back there, but your place kicker is a rookie. And just because it's drafted doesn't guarantee anything. Patriots know that. Patriot fans know that. But the kid's very talented. There's no question about it. How's he look so far from what you've seen?
Up and down, but there was a competition at kicker between him and Parker Romo. And I think that because it comes down to, do we keep the guy that was here last year, or do we keep the guy we spent a 6th round draft pick on? They went with the guy that had the 6th round draft pick. But I think, he was considered the best kicker of the class. So that means something. He had a decent camp. They were neck and neck the entire time. There was just some moments where you're like, oh, okay, that's not great, because he missed a 49er or whatever. But it is exciting. I'm crossing my fingers again that they finally find a kicker, because they've been miserable since they got rid of Gostkowski. Then we kept Chad Ryland over Nick Folk, and then Nick Folk went on to have 2 of the most accurate seasons of his career with the Titans. Chad Ryland was a bust, and now he's a lifesaver in Arizona. So I'm hoping that he will be the guy for a long time.
Yeah, that's the thing about kickers. They're like goalies in hockey. You just, from team to team, from season to season, you never know. Okay. I could see there's a handful of rookies that made the practice squad. So even a couple of draft picks. Any of these guys worth mentioning? Any of them that you think could contribute for the team this season?
So the couple names that I would say is Truman Jones. He had a pretty good camp, and people were a little bit surprised that he wasn't kept around even as a depth piece. Simply because he was highly talked about throughout training camp. And as we said, the defensive line can be a little questionable at this point. And the other was Jeremiah Webb. Great final game in the preseason. So they might be able to use him in some sort of way if the receiving court does not live up to what they want it to be. So those are the 2 that I think stand out to me for sure.
All right. Injuries. You mentioned Gonzalez. So it looks like he's iffy for week 1. What other injuries could possibly impact players from starting week 1?
I think that's the main one. I haven't heard really anything about anyone else. He was the only one missing from practice today. So that's a huge positive. It's just unfortunate that he plays such a pivotal role in the defense that it's him that is missing time. So I'm hoping that he'll be okay to go. But it's one of those things where, if it's a little bit questionable, I'm like, keep him out. I'd rather have him around for the long haul than, have him force him into the first game.
And looking at the players that were or aren't on injured reserve, Tavaya from at linebacker, I know he did not look good in Detroit earlier in his career, comes to the Patriots, and it really takes off ever since then. So he is designated to return.
Yes.
Okay. Is he the main guy, by the way, as far as all these guys in injured reserve? Is he like the only guy that really they might miss?
Yeah. Everybody else, I know that Polk had a season ender. Dial had a season ender. Okay. But I think, Land Larison looked like he was going to be an explosive option, but he's done for the year too. I think Tavai, he kind of a questionable guy in the eyes of Patriots fans because of some comments he made last year about the fans, but he was seeming to embrace whatever Vrabel was trying to do with the defense. And so whenever he's able to come back, I think he'll be a starter.
Okay. Let's now take a look. Where are we? I'm going to take a look. Well, we already know what the line is. So they're a 3-point favorite at home. What do you think? What have you heard? I know it's early in the week, but actually the line's now gone down a little bit here to 2.5. So we'll see what happens. At least
it's still in their favor, I guess. I can be happy about that.
Oh, it's not. Yeah, that won't change. Yes. So they'll be the favorite week 1. So have you heard anything at all yet? Is it too early? What's the scuttlebutt on the Raiders coming to town?
Nothing that I've really heard yet. I think that they're, for the most part, it depends on how you look at it. I think they're considered sneaky teams that could be better than people think they will be. They do have like the D squad calling their game this week, so obviously not enough excitement to give them like a better commentary team. But I think that it could be a potentially better game than people are giving them credit for. They're both teams are coming in. They're hoping to prove the naysayers wrong, and then we have the Josh McDaniels factor that's definitely going to be a story. So I'm very I don't know. I'm looking forward to it. And Genty is going to be a problem. I'm a little worried about that, but it'll be fascinating to watch these two running backs for sure.
What do you think if you're going to try to beat the Patriots, what's the game plan?
Ooh, test the offensive line. I think that's the thing. We saw last year when they were an absolute mess that Drake May was trying to overcompensate for not having solid protection. And that was when we ran into the issues of, trying to force a play, holding on to the ball too long, or even running with the ball, which he's fine. He got, I think, over 400 yards on the season. But it did lead to a concussion one week. And then, we don't want him getting hit unnecessarily. So if they can test the young offensive line, especially on the left side, they might get some more positive plays than maybe they otherwise would. And it might be a little bit easier because, as we said, the rookies on the left side, and Drake May getting nervous. But they're trying to keep him more focused and doing something that Mac Jones was not good at doing, and that's throwing the ball away. So let's hope that Drake May gets better at that.
All right, win totals. The Patriots are at over 8.5. And again, which means that if you wager on them over, that is a winning season for New England. I think this would probably be more like 7.5, 6.5. If it wasn't for the schedule, as we talked about. And that's actually a big story. I mean, everybody's looking at the schedule and they see that again, I don't think it's as easy as people are saying, because the Patriots are not yet. They're not like a playoff team yet. So I don't think there's a lot of games that should be considered easy for the Patriots. But I get what they're saying. Taking a look at it just early, Raiders, Dolphins. I mean, really, if you look at it, just going over some of these games that might be considered tough, where they may even be a dog, like a guaranteed dog. Well, you got Pittsburgh. Here's the Bills.
Or another early game in Buffalo too.
And then, Tampa Bay on the road. Bengals on the road. Bills again. Ravens, that looks like the toughest one.
Yeah.
So really, there's only about 5 or 6 games that it looks like so that means there's about 10 games on the schedule that the Patriots might be a favorite. that they're going to be either a favorite, if they have a good season, they're going to be a
Right.
favorite or a short dog. So I kind of understand where they're coming from. So what's the fan perspective as far as 9 wins or less? What do you think?
Most people would guess 9 or under. Either is going to be the random optimist, that's going to say 10 or 11. I think some of that's just going to be the excitement of an improved roster, a much better and experienced head coach. I'm an optimist. I'm an eternal optimist when it comes to the Patriots, but I don't think we're going to do that much. I'm just hoping for maybe 8. I would like to just see progress. If they can double last year's, that's fine. If they miss the playoffs, that's fine. I don't want anything too crazy. I just want to see improvement and a solid foundation that they can continue to build on in the future. And I think that's what most people want. You won't see that online throughout the season if you're a Twitter person. If you go on Twitter, you're going to see a bunch of miserable Patriots fans if they lose. That's just what it's what it's going to be. But as long as we can see better play from everybody and it looks like they're a cohesive team, I don't care really what the win-loss record is, as long as it looks like, okay, we're on the right path, they got the right players, like there's a lot they can build upon, because I don't expect them to be a contender this year. They can be a contender in 3 years, and that's fine with me, because a rebuild doesn't happen in 1 year. It's been taking 5, if we're being honest. It's taken
not
but
anymore.
Not, I know. I mean, and that's the thing is, people are like, they've been a rebuild for 5 years. I'm like, not really. Let's be real. Not really. Because we've had 3 head coaches in the last 3 years. So this is the first year of a rebuild. And if Vrabel can stick around and get them on the right path, that's all that matters to me.
Well, Sara, I really appreciate you taking your time to get us up to date with what's going on with the Patriots. And we have links in the description of this video where you can check out Sara's work on the Patriots. So do you have either your own podcast, or how often do you put out posts on the Patriots each week?
So I really only tweet about wrestling, professional wrestling, and the Patriots on my Twitter. So if you like the Patriots, you can follow me there. I also just started a TikTok. I think I forgot to send you that link, but it's just Sara Talks Pats. And so I post, 2-minute videos about the Patriots as often as I can. Musket Fire YouTube, there's some interviews on there. Going to be posting my TikToks on there as well. So I try to talk about the Patriots every single day as much as I can, because I can.
That's the job.
Yep. And it's
you want
fun.
to.
Yes, exactly.
All right, Sara. Well, have a great season. Enjoy it. Like you said, let's hope for Patriot fans, it's going to be as good, or at least as improving as most fans, or at least most people believe. And we look forward to hopefully getting a chance to talk to you sometime during the season.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Sara.